Nicole Smith from Blood and Iron Martial Arts, and today we have a very special guest joining us. Not you, Master Assistant. We have Keith Jennings joining us. Hi.
How's it going, Nicole?
Not bad. Good to see you.
Thanks.
Keith Jennings is the head instructor for Chicago Combatives.
Yep, I teach in Chicago. I am an instructor under Lee Morrison in Urban Combatives, Mike Janich in Martial Blade Concepts, and I teach my own blend of empty hand and blade tactics.
Cool. Awesome. Well, at Blood and Iron, we teach a lot of historical dagger. Right. And one of the questions we get asked a lot is, how does this, or does this even apply to modern knife?
Okay.
So one of the things we might like to look at is, how does that work?
Cool. Let's explore it.
Awesome. Well, the first thing we should probably look at is how we carry our blades. Now, historically, we probably either cross-draw or have it on your hip and pull it out and you're ready to stab.
Sure.
So how do you guys carry?
Cool. Well, in Chicago, if I'm going to carry a fixed blade, I need to keep it concealed. So right now I have inside waistband appendix. So in order to access that, I've got concealed. So the first thing I would need to do is actually clear the clothing, and then it comes right up, usually into temple index. What this setup also allows me to do, which is nice, is from here I can target the eyes right away with a thrust. So that would be considered my main blade. Of course, carrying a tactical folder is very popular. The problem with that is once it comes out, this thing is not actually in battery, it's not ready to go yet, so I need to have a technique to open the blade to get ready to go. So usually I do that by thumbing it. There's a Spyderco hole right there. I would thumb it, flick, ready to go. Another option, I normally don't carry this many blades on me, this is just for the example, but I also have center line, just off center line carried here. So what this is for is if I'm tied up somehow, my left hand can draw this, ready to go there.
That's pretty cool.
So,
now, one thing to note, concealed carry may be legal where Keith is from, but please take a note and look into what your local laws are, because they vary from state to state and place to place.
Good idea.
Let's have a look at some techniques. Now, the first one I like to look at with historical dagger is defending that downward descending strike. We see that an awful lot. And we probably stab to the wrist. So the way I'd like to handle that, if I'm a little bit late, I'd hook from behind, bring it around, stab. Or if I just happen to be a little bit early, I come in the front, lock, come around, stab. So I'm just curious, what would the modern equivalent of that be?
Cool, so we have something very, very similar. Let's get rid of these real fast and I'll show you. All right, so first of all, we got our smaller blades. My blade right here is actually Pakal style blade. It's my own design called the Shicom, where the edge is actually on the inside. So I don't have to worry so much about landing that point because I've got the edge. So I'll demonstrate. So I'll actually move right here if you don't mind, Nicole. So she's gonna give me the stab. So I'm gonna do the same exact technique, but now as soon as I make contact, my edge is on her. So I'm gonna be hooking, passing the outside. As soon as I pull this back, I've cut her. Now from here, my favorite target is the quad. I'm going to stab into it and pull out. You feel that? Another good target maybe would be to drop this into here, cut through the bicep, and then I could just keep going. So the idea is every time I make contact with this Pakal style blade, I am ripping stuff as I pull it out.
Yeah, that is nasty.
It is.
All right, next technique. Let's have a look at the gut stab. They come in low and aim for your belly. What do we do with that? Generally, what I would do, I'm trying to catch it at the wrist, come around, and go for the stab.
Cool.
So, modern answer to that is?
Yeah, we definitely have a modern answer because this is known as the sewing machine attack. Very, very common way where if someone wielding a knife is going to attack you, so we need to have a very good response. So let's get rid of this. I'm going to use my folder this time. So you've got your blade out, you're going to come in low. I'm going to hook, but notice how I don't actually have a blade touching her. I'm using what's called the puño, the pommel against her wrist. I'm going to monitor her elbow, and I cut her quadricep. So we're going to do that a little faster. You stab low, take her right there. Cool?
Absolutely.
All right.
Okay, we're going to have another look at the gut stab, but this time unarmed. Now the historical response to that would be coming in, I'm going to create an X to block it, wrap it, strip it, and stab.
Nice. Cool. So in counterblade concepts, you also have an X block. We call it a split X. So instead of having my hands together, we're going to create a funnel. So Nicole's going to stab. I'm creating the funnel here where my left arm is lower towards her wrist. My right arm is high on her bicep. From here, dominant hand, right hand is going to grab her tricep. I'm going to pull her in as I roll into what we call a compression lock. As a compression lock, I would probably just start firing knees, try and shut off this computer, take her down.
Yeah, that'll do it.
It does.
So I have a question.
Sure.
What happens if we use a longer knife with your split X technique?
Good question, because you're right. The medieval manuscripts seem to show the split X are with wrists close together. Modern methods, we have it apart. So let's try it. So you stab low. You can see with this modern split X, this tip is actually very close to me. So it makes sense why the medieval manuscripts would maybe have their wrists closer together. Now conversely, let's get rid of that. Here's my Shikon Pikal. So if you do the medieval split X, as this comes in, as soon as I make contact, I can draw this back. So you have to worry about the edge a little more. So that's why modern contexts, we like to have our arms split a little bit more, and we make sure we expose the back of the arms. So if you do get cut, I'm not out to fight, my flexor tendons haven't been severed. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, so we've had a look at the downward descending strike, we had a look at the gut stab. Let's look at a cut.
Sure.
Historically, if you're coming at me with your knife, I would block, grab your throat, step through, wrap, and throw.
Nice.
Okay?
Cool. So modern response, we have something sort of similar. One thing we're worried about with a modern blade is probably a little more sharp. So I don't want to expose my flexor tendons. I'm going to be using the back of my arm. So if I do get cut, I don't lose my ability to make a fist. So Nicole comes in. I'm going to do a two-handed block here. I like two hands, honestly. Notice back of my arm is against hers. Now, when I wrap, I'm going to make a violent index into her neck. My usual response instead of a throw is to shut off the computer. So from here, either knee strikes or index and shots to the back of the head. Just try and shut the computer off, drop her, get out. Make sense?
Yep, totally works.
Cool.
We've had a look at the cut with the empty hand. Let's look at the cut again, only this time I'm able to get at my knife. Okay. So as he comes in with his cut, I'm going to draw, cross my arms, grabbing the blade, bring this down, and stab him in the neck.
Nice. So medieval arts have that cross block. For the modern, we're going to do what's called a crissata. So sort of similar. So we get out our modern blades here. Nicole's going to give me that high line. I'm going to crissata by taking my checking hand, blocking the outside of her hand as I cut through her flexor tendons. Once I'm on the outside, tricep and quad are my next go-to. So we're going to show it at speed. Sure. So your feet, right there. So we did the crissata, tricep, quad. Threat should be eliminated by that point.
Oh yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Keith.
No problem.
I really enjoyed looking at how the historical turns into the modern.
Yeah, me too. I think we showed that there's a lot of concepts that crossed over, but also a lot of self-defense needs are going to be determined by whatever dangers you're going to face. So the dangers we're facing today are going to be a little different than 600 years ago.
No doubt. And remember, if you don't put in the training, you're not going to get the result.
That's true.